Talk to me, Goose. Tell me that wasn't the perfect feed in and intro. Was anybody paying attention to that? Huh? Tell me I didn't go yard on that one, because I did. That was really good stuff. So let me tell you about my day. I did a show this morning based on the fact that there were some new numbers that came in, and they're out of San Francisco. It's one city, but numbers out of one city that say that this is going to break all the records that they've ever had in terms of overdoses. I plan on discussing that and some other things this evening with Wages, and Wages had something come up that couldn't be avoided. So sort of at the with an hour or two left, I was here, and boy, there's just a ton of crap to rant about. And if you've been on a boat for any length of time, I do a bunch of rants, right? This is not a new thing. Here's what I'll do. All right. I'm gonna talk about some things that where drugs and politics meet. I am not going to be talking from the point of view of a Republican or a Democrat. Nevertheless, if this kind of stuff bums you out, James Novak, good to see you. How are you feeling, my friend? You can come back. I'll be here tomorrow, and I'll be talking about things that have nothing to do with this. But we're in a really dangerous place, and we have to start talking about some really uncomfortable things if we have any chance of pulling the nose up on this thing before it absolutely smashes into the ground and we don't have a country to rebuild in the next 6 or 7 years. And I'm not over dramatizing this in any way. We are absolutely screwed right now with what's going on in this country. And for the longest time, we've had debates and discussions about things like safe injection sites, giving out Narcan. And these all fall under the heading of a category that gets too much stuff thrown under the umbrella of, right? But it all falls under the umbrella of what they call harm reduction. And the harm reduction model says, meet these people where they live and do what you can to start to bring them into the fold, because people who get addicted to drugs and go far off the deep end, and some of us have done that. Some of us got addicted, and before we got too out of control, we were able to kind of right the ship, and we figured out early on in the game that we needed help, and that help was out there. It doesn't always work that way, and some people really destroy their lives in this process. And when they do, when they're off the deep end, they don't trust anybody that doesn't do dope, right? They don't trust anybody that's not inside their little circle of friends. And the harm reduction model says, if we can meet these people and not say, you need to quit doing dope today, and we're going to get you into rehab, and all of those fears, that's their biggest fear. If they come in and they start talking to somebody, that person's not going to let them leave, and they're going to get sick, and there's going to be detox, laying in a room. And this is what these people paint in their head. And if you have an opportunity to talk to these people and say, hey, you shooting this stuff? Okay, man, how are you getting your needles? Please tell me you're not using one 40 or 50 times, or you're one of these people that are picking these things up in the street, right? Do you have a way to get these? Come by. We will give you needles. It's doing two things, right? It's stopping the spread of HIV, which is a good thing, and hepatitis. And it's keeping the wounds from people using, dirty and contaminated needles. It's not eliminating them by any stretch, but it does do some harm reduction where it starts to give people a better opportunity. And at that point, you've met this individual, and they're like, you know what? These people gave me needles. They didn't give me crap about anything. And the next time, it's usually you know what? Are you got a place that you stay, or are you living on the street? Because if you're living on the street, we got some stuff we can give you. You know what I mean? Like a fresh pair of socks. If someone is homeless, is a really, really big deal. And deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste. This is the kind of stuff they give out at needle exchange programs and harm reduction centers around the country. And they're making contact and they're gaining trust. And it gets to a point where when somebody shows up, it's not somebody coming in to get stuff. It's, hey, Kev, how you doing? You hanging in there? And these people, and when their checks come, and what they're doing with their money, and all of the nightmare that involves all of this, and they trust you. And this is a model that helps get these people who are untouchable, who are so far into the ether and into that life that usually there's just no way to approach them. And it gives an opportunity for these people to all of a sudden start talking about the possibility of maybe getting off of this garbage. And that's right? This is the highest goal of all of us. Anybody that's doing this, we just want people to get their lives back under control. So is harm reduction, somebody sent me a correspondence today, and we were talking about this. They're Canadian, and they said, we tried it up here, but the big thing is, I don't want that in my neighborhood. And it's pretty sad. And it's pretty sad because I don't want it in my neighborhood either. That's awful, isn't it? But it's reality. And sadly, like, there are places, by the way, that this has worked, right? There are places where this has worked. There are cities where drug users got intimately involved, right? In fact, Canada is a great example of this. This happened in Vancouver, where people went around and said, "Why do you hate us? Why are you cool with us dying?" They actually showed up at some city council meetings and said, "Why is it that you people honestly don't care how many of us are dying? Why is it?" And they said, "Well, because there's needles all over the street, right? Our parks have needles everywhere. You can't take kids out. They're over in schoolyards." And the people who were in active addiction listened. They put little teams together to go out and pick up needles and fill unbelievably huge trash cans full of empty syringes and things. And they got it cleaned up, and they started to bridge a relationship between the people in active addiction and the people in the town that didn't understand them. And an amazing thing happened. The mayor of the city went and met with drug users, and he sat in a diner. You can actually look all of this stuff up, but he sat and had a meeting with this person who just said, "I could name friends of mine who have overdosed and died for the next 15 to 20 minutes, one right after the other, one name right after the other." Something's got to be done. We've gotten to the point where all of the platitudes and all of the cool things that we say and all of that, something's got to be done. Because at the moment, we're dying at a rate. So I was talking to a crew member earlier today, and I was talking about, I said, I kind of got the rug pulled out, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do. And this person bounces ideas with me sometimes to help me find some stuff to talk about. And I started to talk about, some of this. And the person suggested, have you ever gone and looked up maybe one state? And I said, oddly enough, I did that today, and I did it by accident. And I looked up one state in particular that the record for them for overdose deaths from drugs in a year is 3,500. They are saying that this year is going to blow that off the map. That's one state, right? One state that we're just under 4,000 deaths this year alone, right? Well, we have 50 states. When you start thinking of what the potential is, and I mean, this state, by the way, was not California. I mean, it wasn't Vermont and New Hampshire either, but we're going to chase this down. I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to take the time, and I'm going to look at the 50 different states and what their projections are, because the numbers never add up. They don't make a freaking bit of sense, and they seem to get played with. And it's almost, hey, Leisure, good to see you, bud. It's almost as if they just assume the Mandela effect or whatever will handle this, because the average American probably doesn't talk about this every day. But we were at 108,000. Everybody remembers this number, don't they? I mean, I've said it on here. I kind of wish I had $1 for every time I said it on here, right? I'd be doing well. But that's where we're at, right? 108,000. I read today on 15 different web pages, 80,000, 85,000, 88,000. These are not like, the Lifeboat, right? The Lifeboat Live, web. These are big government organizations or non-government organizations that are very closely affiliated with our government. But nevertheless, what the hell happened, right? These numbers get played with or whatever. They're doing everything they can to downplay this as much as they possibly can, while still literally doing nothing about it, burying their head as deep in the sand as they can. Or, don't look here, right? And it's all sleight of hand. When Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are in the news, they're distracting us from something. Like the CDC just came out with some new numbers or whatever. I talked to people today. I said, have you been hearing about any of this stuff? No new numbers are coming out. There are new numbers that came out today. And right now, 32% of Americans, John, appreciate you, bud, really do. He says, love you all, hope all is well. It is, and thank you, my friend. Appreciate the support. Right now in this country, 32% of Americans say they have an opioid problem or somebody in their immediate sphere of influence does. Right? So best friends, family, whatever. 32%. So, right, more than 3 out of every 10 people have been affected by this. That is a nationwide average. Now, when you start getting into different neighborhoods or you start getting into different ethnicities or anything else, those numbers start to change in a very big way. For instance, when you get into rural America, it's 43%. 43% of Americans say they either have a problem or someone immediately in their sphere of influence does. 43%, right? Now we're starting to encroach on that magic half. Right? So rural America is getting the crap kicked out of it. There's also some unusual numbers that came out. This affects everybody. Make no mistake. This affects everybody. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter anything, right? Sexual preference, nothing. This doesn't care. However, it's almost 2-to-1 a middle-aged white man disease, right? I mean, the opioid part of it. The opioid crisis right now is being fueled in a very big way by guys my age. Right. My demographic perfectly, guys in their 40s to 50s who are white guys that are, probably started on prescription stuff and then, started to buy whatever was on the street when the prescriptions stopped coming, and they always do, or they quite simply are just not enough. They're not giving you enough Oxycontin to make it worthwhile anymore. And that kind of happens too. But these numbers, if they're not getting your attention, right? So you start thinking about things like needle exchange programs, or God forbid, maybe one further. What if we just started to supply a safe drug to the people who are using this stuff? That sounds insane, doesn't it? I mean, for real. Let me tell you something. A year ago, I didn't believe in safe injection sites. A year ago, I didn't believe in harm reduction. I didn't. I didn't think it was a particularly good idea. I felt like it was tapping out. But then it changed. Everything changed. And if you say, well, what the hell changed? Because it's the same thing, right? It's still people using dope. It's still people's responsibility. They started doing this. Why are we going in there? Here's the difference. Yeah. It's a disease of choice. You made the initial choice to go out and do what you did. And then you got addicted to it and you couldn't stop. It is absolutely a disease of choice. What you didn't choose was to be in the middle of a war that the rest of the world isn't talking about, right? This poison is coming from China. It's being sent in raw form to the cartels in Mexico that are mixing this stuff up and doing whatever needs to be done and then sending it across the border. This is a coordinated attack on our country. You cannot just look at the evidence. Forget who I am, right? Don't give me a shred of credit in terms of having insight or anything else. Just look at what's happening. The business model is for drug dealers. This is going to come as a shock to you, but the business model for drug dealers is to move as much product as humanly possible at the best price that you can get, creating a ton of money. This is where you see every once in a while, they'll find a train car full of $100 bills. For real, a train car. And these things are all over the place. You say, how is that possible? Because the amount of money that is getting generated from this, but that's their job. Move product, sell dope, and perfectly get people addicted to it, because then they have to buy it every single day, and very often 2 or 3 times a day. It's a perfect customer. This is a cash machine, unless somehow you screw up and kill your customer. That's really getting busted or killing off the customer base are the only 2 things that can hurt your business. So why do they keep making the product stronger? Why do they keep making this dope stronger and cheaper? That's never been a thing, right? You're going to make it stronger and cheaper. And when it's killing off, 1 out of every 6 to 8 people who are using it. I got an idea. Let's make it stronger and we'll make it a little cheaper. That's not the business model, Pete. It isn't. So you got to start asking yourself, what the hell is going on? When it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't make sense. I got an idea. Let's mix in xylazine, because this is a really good idea. Now we'll get an animal tranquilizer and we'll mix it in there because we're not killing enough of the customers. And now when they try to save their lives with that Narcan stuff, it's not going to work because xylazine isn't an opioid. So Narcan's not going to do anything. We'll just add this ingredient because now the antidote won't work. We'll kill more customers. Does that sound like a business model that makes a fart bit of sense to anybody? Help me. Does this sound like it makes sense to you? Because it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense at all. Lene, good to see you. Boy, we wrestled for a while trying to get Lene so that she could get in here and get on the chat. She was having a problem with one of the other accounts. Don't exactly know what the deal is, but here she is, and we're happy to have her. It's great to have you, Lene. But so what are we doing? What are we doing? Because this isn't being combated at any level. It's not. But you will think it is. If you turn on the news, hate me, but if you turn on the news, I don't care which one you turn on. I shouldn't say that. There's probably 1 or 2 that might not report this way, but the vast majority are reporting that Mayorkas, right, the gentleman that's handling all of this stuff so beautifully down at the border, we have it under control. The number of people coming across illegally and everything else has dropped so much, right, just in the last couple of months. Well, that's BS. I'm sorry, but there's not even a little bit of truth to that. What they've done is stop counting. Because now when you get close to the border, you send them a text and you say, I'm going to be coming across. And that's not an illegal crossing. Are you hearing me? That's not an illegal crossing. So the reason illegal crossings are really down is because we've opened up the door and said, go ahead, right? There is no such thing as an illegal crossing because now they'll just let you in. But the numbers, don't let them lie to you that there are less people coming across and therefore we're safer and there's less dope. That's BS. There's nothing at all that is based in reality. Now, I chased this one down a little bit, and you should because it's fun. When these people schedule an appointment to walk across the border, how you doing? I'm Tommy. I'm coming from South, and I'm looking for asylum. They say, all right, we're going to book you an appointment. You know how long it takes for the average person to actually get that appointment and show up into a building? How far out would your appointment be? You think it might be a year? That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Because what are the odds that somebody shows up a year later? What if it were 2 years or 3? Do you think anyone's going to show up 3 years later? Because the average time right now is a decade. 10 years. What could possibly go wrong? This person that's waiting for all of this and going into the country and getting a job and going wherever they want. A great deal of them, right, got brought all the way up there and deals have been cut and ow. Oh, it's all right. She did not like that one. The monsoons are here, people. The monsoons are here. But 10 years. 10 years. And you can call me everything, and I'm going to catch flack for it because this is just how YouTube works. But a great number of the people that come across this border and who come across it with the help of the cartels owe money, right? All of them owe money back to the cartels. So when you say, all right, they go to the government says you're going to New Jersey, they call back down and they say, all right, look, we're sending some product up and you're going to set up a cell in New Jersey. This is why this has gone like this and spread across the entire country. I'm sorry, it's a fact. We are volunteering as a country to handle all of the transportation issues for the cartel. You need a whole new group of people to be selling in such and such a state. Don't worry about it. The USA will ship those people wherever you need them, and we'll give them a cell phone. Kick that business off with, right? They start with their own cell number, courtesy of Uncle Sam. See you in a decade. Does this make any sense to anybody? For real. I mean, don't get mad at me. I'm not bad mouthing. I'm not bad mouthing an administration. I'm bad mouthing a policy. Right? The policy at the border right now is absolutely open season. If you are the cartels, you are tattooing pictures of this president onto your body. Because when he came in, this wasn't happening. Whether you like the last guy or not. And you can think he's a jackass. I completely understand why. I really do. However, under his administration, overdose deaths dropped. There was a year where they were lower than the year before. That doesn't happen. Hasn't happened in a very, very long time. Sadly, that stopped. You know, when you come in and you repeal everything that worked, which is exactly what they did, and they did it for the purpose of a score, a political score. This term coming up, we need to vote for whoever has the best plan to shut this down. The reason that we have to have safe injection sites is because this isn't someone going out and doing dope. These are people being murdered by China, and we owe our people a better shake than that. For real. We owe them a better shake. We allowed this entire epidemic of dope to go on. Our country did. What we allowed the Sacklers to do started this entire ball of crap. For real. The Sackler family should get a gold medal for being the biggest drug dealers in history. And when they went out of business and filed Chapter 11 and all of those protections, they left in their wake, you know, millions of people that needed a fix. The cartels stepped in and delivered. Right? Is this a shocker to anybody in this country? How this happened, why it happened? Well, we let it happen. And now our people are dying because of it. And we're allowing this poison on the street that's killing our people. We owe the American citizens a better shake than this. Whether you are a taxpayer that is doing everything right and you've never done drugs in your life, you're supposed to be protected by this country. And if you are somebody that is screwing up massively and you are on the street and you're breaking the law to get the dope that you're getting, you still are protected in this country. You're supposed to be, right? We're not second class citizens anymore. That would be great, right? Oh, for the days when we were just second class citizens. Now we're fodder, right? We're fodder for both sides. Both sides don't care how many of us die. They just want to make a political point, right? And the political points will all be lies. You understand that? You know how you lie about a political opponent? You wait until there's a bill going through Congress that you know this person is going to vote against. There's no chance on God's green earth this guy is not going to vote against this bill. And then you put something as an earmark on the bottom of that bill, like, how about we give some money to babies who are born prematurely, right? Or how about we give money to victims of this or victims of that? And you vote down the bill, which is actually for a nuclear weapon or something, but down at the bottom in that little footnote. Well, then they start making commercials. Tommy Scoville voted 6 times against giving money to children who were injured in such and such a tragedy. No, there's 275 pork product, earmarks on the bottom of that bill for everything under the sun. And half of it is just done for the optics because they know that they're going to put it on CNN or they're going to put it on Fox, depending on which side's playing the BS, and we're going to buy it. Because we watch our news in 30-second spits and we let them tell us what we believe. We used to. We're not doing it much anymore. Truthfully, there's been a real change in the attitude of people in this country. This kind of crap, believe it or not, is killing them. It's killing them because nobody really believes anymore. I think the last time I read, the approval rating for all of the mainstream media is down somewhere in the 7% rate. 7%. If you ask inmates in prison if they like their prison guards, you'd get a better response than 7%. For real. Like, this is just downright awful. But we put it on, don't we? We do. Pick that crap up. We do this number. Okay. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. And sadly, the news agencies have an absolute directive, and that directive is to get their guy in office. They're not telling the news. They're going to try to get their guy in office. So if you're listening to the people that want to get these guys back in office, they're not even going to mention that people are dying. For real. It doesn't matter what's happened. They ain't mentioning it. It's tragic. It really is. How pissed off are you if you lost a son or a daughter to this? I was talking to somebody else, a crew member on the boat that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and I brought up this epidemic and just how bad it is, and I started spitting out some of the statistics, and they said, "Do you remember when AIDS broke onto the scene in America?" And we freaked out, didn't we? I mean, we did. Rightfully so, by the way. It's a pretty heinous disease. But we threw resources. There were concerts. There were, entire just movements to do something about it. And we did, right? Everybody rallied to do something about it, and we did. Now people who get that, it's not a death sentence anymore. Now with the right cocktail of drugs and being in constant contact with the doctor, people are going to live long and productive lives. Why? Because we cared. Because we were willing to do something about it. Because we got behind it as a country, and everybody said, you know what? This can't stand. But people are going to die because of their sexual orientation, right? That's really what it was coming down to. We can't allow that. We're not that kind of country. Unless it's just drug users. Screw them. And I don't want them in my neighborhood. It's where we're at. And sadly, this is not, I'm not going to get to the end of this and say, but the good news is, because there really isn't any. There isn't. And it's spiraling out of control. And what you're hearing, is literally the tip of the iceberg. It is the tip of the iceberg. The amount of crap that is going on right now. You guys know what Temu is, right? I'm sure that a lot of you do. But there were a lot of laws changed so that they could direct ship right to people in the U.S. They don't have a warehouse, right? They're shipping from the China manufacturing facilities directly to your door. Do you have any idea what this has done for the ability for that country to get poison directly to the end user? They're cutting the cartels out, cutting out their own partners now. They really are. This has made it almost impossible for this country to do its job. How many packages from that chunk of crap company do you think are coming into this country every single day, addressed to somebody's house, not to a warehouse to be looked at and to go through customs and all that? No, it's going straight to your house. And it could be in any size box, right? Because they sell everything. They're like Amazon, but they're just going directly from the factory right to your house. And how hard is it now to just squeak in a few, right? Toss a few packages. If one out of every 2,000's got a load, you know how many of those things are coming over every day? But it's getting worse. Do you understand? It's not getting better. It's getting worse. And if you know somebody that's doing something about it, why don't you shoot me an email so that I can sing their praises on this channel, right? Maybe even reach out to them. Because right now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel awfully freaking alone. I feel like as a group of people, we've been more marginalized than anybody in history. I'm sorry. But if, we've said it how many times, if 400 or 500 people a day in this country were dying of anything other than drug overdoses, there'd be concerts, there'd be telethons, there'd be every single freaking thing you could think of to try to make this go away or slow the hell down. But that's not happening. Plain and simple, that's not happening. In fact, they're doing everything within their power to hide it. The stories get buried on the back pages. For real. And you know how this works. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You know I'm right. You know how this works. The press leans in one direction so that if the last administration, the people that the story of that family where 6 people were all, or 5 of the 6 people overdosed and died thinking they were doing coke. It happened in Colorado. We did a show on it last year. If that had happened under the previous administration, it would have been the lead story, right, on the 6 o'clock news every day for 2 weeks, because it would have fit their political agenda. But if it doesn't fit their political agenda, they're willing to let us die at rates we've never seen. There's nothing. What's ever happened that's killed this many people a day every day? Nothing. I mean, for real, nothing. Look at the numbers of this and compare it to that silly epidemic we had that made us all wear those stupid freaking masks. Compare the numbers. The numbers of the opioid epidemic, you take it back to the beginning of it, it's more than every single American who's ever died in war combined, going back to the very beginning. I don't think the scope of this epidemic, the scope of what this is doing, there's nobody that doesn't know somebody that lost a family member, that lost a significant other, that had somebody in their life that was a huge part of their existence that's no longer here because of this crap. What do we pay taxes for? For real. The idea is to provide for the common defense. Remember hearing that phrase? It's in the preamble to the Constitution. That lays it out pretty clear. To provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty. Is that happening? Not if you get high. Not if you get high on anything. You're rolling the dice. You're risking your life. And there's not even an excellent campaign to tell people about it. In all honesty, we did a show with my daughter. I don't remember when. It was a while back, but I had my daughter on, and I had her off camera because of the sick bastards on the planet. I didn't put her on camera, but I interviewed my daughter, and one of the questions was it teachers? Was it cops? Who did they bring into your school to teach you about fentanyl and about this, all of the stuff that was going on with the overdoses? Because she had graduated last year. No, the year before last now. So she only graduated a couple. She was right in the middle of the fentanyl crisis, right as it was really starting to cook. And she was in that part of the country where it's really bad. So I said, the question was, who was it? Because kids don't listen to teachers and kids don't listen to cops. So who did they bring in? And my daughter said, the only person that ever talked to me about fentanyl was you. She said, they didn't talk about it at my school. They come in and do a just say no to drugs kind of a thing, where it's a day or two of, assert your personality. Don't let people walk over you. All good stuff, all excellent stuff. But holy crap, how about those pills out there with the M30 on them? They're not real. Like there aren't any real ones left. Honestly, hell of a frightening article on pharmacies in Mexico. There's a good lawsuit going on right now of some people that lost a family member that just went to a pharmacy to get something for a headache while they were on vacation and overdosed and died. And when they did the autopsy, he had fent in his system. Well, the pill he bought had nothing to do with fent. I believe it was like a Tylenol 3 kind of a thing, like we do here in the States, like a codeine. You know what I mean? Like Tylenol 3 with codeine, where it's just a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug with, instead of a really hard, nasty painkiller, just a little bit of codeine or whatever. Instead, he got fentanyl. So they went to 38 different pharmacies in Mexico and they bought the same medication. And every single one of those pharmacies had pills that they tested that came back with fentanyl on it. This is in pharmacies. So this BS supply is making its way into the commercial realm. So for those of you who live in San Diego, and for those of you who live right on the border of any major town where you can just walk across, head on over to Matamoros and grab yourself some pills or whatever, just know that this is what we're looking at. This is what we're looking at. Vested interest in killing off your customer base because it's just a good business model, isn't it? How can this not be a concerted attack on our country? And more importantly, why is it being allowed to continue? Now, you can go down a rabbit hole on that one, people. And there's a lot of folks out there that have a theory or two on why this president is doing nothing to stop China. There are a lot of people with a lot of theories, and I'll let you guys speculate all you want on that, wherever you want. But here, we're just going to stick to the fact that this stuff's coming across the border at a rate that we've never seen. And it continues to get stronger. We're seeing more and more nits in the food chain, so to speak, and more xylazine. It's showing up everywhere. And another one of those things that's not just it isn't just killing people, and it is, but it is clogging up the medical system. Seriously, in any place where this trank dope is is all over the place. You go to any hospital and they have dozens and dozens of people in there who they've either got in an oxygen tent or they've got them in a those hyperbaric chambers because they've got flesh-eating disease from shooting that stuff, and they're losing limbs left and right every single day. There are people in this country losing arms, legs, hands, feet from getting high. From stuff that every single one of us here did, right? If you're a person that snorted coke and you think this has got nothing to do with me, they're talking about fentanyl. If this crap was during your heyday, there'd have been fentanyl in your cocaine, right? It's in everything. They're putting it in everything. Does that make any sense to the drug users here? All of us have a little bit of insight into this world that the average person doesn't have. If I had said to you, prior to this entire epidemic, would it make any sense for me to cut a really strong opioid into your methamphetamine? Right? What drug user is going to go, no, yeah, that's a good mix, and put a little in my cocaine? Because there's nothing I like more in my cocaine than, I mean, if you're slamming it, you're doing speedballs, whatever, but they're mixing it into virtually everything. Thanks, ZW. I really appreciate you, hon. ZW's sweating with us down here. We share a state now. It was a little hot today, but it's about to get a lot cooler. Probably drop about 10 or 15 degrees in about half an hour. The monsoons come in right on time. When the monsoons come in, they're absolutely ridiculous. Buddha Davis, good to see you, man. The number of you that have reached out to me who have lost family members and have lost friends to this, my heart goes out to all of you. Anytime you lose somebody to anything other than old age, there's a feeling of what a waste. Because if a person dies when they're 60, what's the first thing we do? We think, oh man, they should have had at least 20 more years, right? They should have at least 20 more years of being around the people they love and everything else. But you know what? When that is caused by an overdose, that's a kind of pain that people don't really get until it happens to them. Because now it doesn't just feel like the time was wasted. It feels like it was stolen. It feels like that 20 years that you could have had with somebody that you really love was stolen. And it was. Let's keep it real. It was. We can do a couple of things, because that's going to be the next thing that happens. I'm going to get emails from people because people get fired up when they hear this. Why? Because we're not like other people. Because we've been there and we've done this and we know what it's like, and we think to ourselves, man, I'd have been dead. Two ways about it, right? I mean, I've been sober 8 years. If my sobriety date was going to be 6 years from now, I'd already be dead. There's no way I would have made it. I mean, this is my wheelhouse. This is the stuff I did. There's no way I would have made it. And I think that weighs on the head of a lot of people here, there but for the grace of God kind of thing, right? Go I. So I get all kinds of people that reach out and say, what can I do? You can write to every politician that you can. You can reach out to any television program, right, that has a thing that says, you know what, reach out to us. And you don't have to promote me. You don't have to promote anybody. But you have to say, you know what? What the hell is anyone doing about the opioid epidemic? You know what I mean? You do shows on this, and this. What the hell are you guys? What is anybody doing? Get somebody on there to talk about that. Because right now we're getting BS'd. There are so few reporters out there that even attack this. And I'm sure that a lot of that has to do with their bosses who go, no, we're not talking about that, because it makes this party look bad. Or we'll talk about that, but we got to put a different slant on it. Somehow this has got to be Ronald Reagan's fault, or we got to put this one on to the Carter administration, because there's always a real desire for one party to shift this onto the other, because damn it, if it's those Republicans' fault, well, then maybe we can get a few votes away from them. But if it's those Democrats' fault, hey, you know what? One issue for me, man. That's it. I don't care. These are my people. And they're dying. Seventh son The gentleman that you know is the guy that tells fantastic jokes that never miss the mark. Funny, forget about it. Seventh knows more about how you contact politicians because he's done an unbelievable job of reaching out to basically every politician on this part of the globe, and that is something you can do. You can reach out to your politicians. The other thing that I would recommend more than anything else, I mean, this is the prime directive, right? We may not be able to save the earth. I don't think it's possible anymore. I really don't. And I don't think it's possible to save this country if you really want to know the truth. Not from this. I mean, we're going to be a country, but we're not going to look like we did ever again. This is that out of control. And the longer that we let it continue to go, the less of what we remember of this country is going to still be there. So when this election rolls around this time, try to pay attention to what people are saying about that border, what people are saying about that drug problem, right? Because this is it. This is a war. And every single day, for those of a specific age, right? In Vietnam, every night on the TV, what would happen? They would come on and they would give you a body count. How many Americans died today in the war? And the number would go up on the screen. But those numbers weren't 500 people a day, every single day, right? It wasn't. I mean, in all of Vietnam, would we lose 59,000 or 57,000 or something like that? Well, we'll beat that every single year from the opioid crisis. We're not going to fall below that ever again. It would be great if we did, but we're not. Annually, we're going to be starting to crawl up into about 250,000, and it's not going to stop there. It's not going to stop there. That one of the things that people don't seem to realize is that we are filling a pipeline. For anybody that's ever been in sales, right? For anyone who's ever been in a job where you sell for a living, you get there and you start talking to people and you're like, oh, this is terrible. What do I make money? I'm not making any money. And you sit there and you just continue to go, but you're filling a pipeline, right? So when that first sale comes in, all of a sudden these other people that you've been talking to for 3 and 4 weeks start calling you. Hey, man, I decided I wanted to do that. What the cartels are doing right now is filling a pipeline. For real. There are people today in this country that are trying fent for the first time. This is going to be their new drug of choice in a very short fashion. And they're filling the pipeline with the next batch of people who are going to be dying from this. For real. You know, this epidemic started with people who were already addicted to the drug. And that's who we saw dying. People who were already addicted to opioids, people that had already been using needles. It started off killing, pardon my French, but what people would say is it started killing off junkies. That's what it started. It started killing off people that had been on this dope forever because it was way stronger than what they were used to. And they were probably doing more of it than they should. But now what we've got is a whole new generation of kids who literally, this is their drug of choice. They're not even getting snowed anymore, right? There are people who are out there. What's your drug? Fent? Like, that's my get down. Right? I like fentanyl. Put it on a little bit, just hitting fent, smoking just a little bit, and that little bit. You're going to get that one and it's going to be over. And sadly, I mean, anybody that's listening to the sound of my voice right now that ever had a drug problem, you remember just puffing one or two before you went to bed, right? Guaranteed a nice sleep. I always smoked right before I went to bed. If I was doing heroin, I'd smoke it all the time, every time, right before I went to bed. So you sort of nod it off into the sleep. You do that on this, and then you fall asleep and you don't wake up. It is so much stronger than anything that has ever been out there. And what are we doing? We're making it stronger, right? It's the strongest stuff in the world. It's killing what percentage of people who are using it? Let's make it stronger. Let's add xylazine. Let's put something in there so that the antidote won't freaking work. Just business. Right? Cartels trying to make money, right? They're not trying to. This isn't China trying to attack our way of life through Mexican drug cartels. Tommy, you're paranoid. There'll be a video about that tomorrow. Paranoid Tommy. But I'm dead serious, folks. This is it. Are we going to win this war on drugs? No chance. I'm sorry, we're not. It's too late for that. We screwed this up. We didn't just destroy our country in the process. We destroyed Mexico. For real. Everything that's going on down there and all the violence and all that is because we are the biggest consumers of dope in the world. And we've made it such a black market money machine. The cartels are going to make more money this year than Exxon, right? They're going to make more money this year than Amazon. As far as profits go, the money that these guys are making, there's no way to calculate it. And we did this. Look how powerful we made them. Ooh, here it comes. And you know what they're doing with the money? They're buying automatic weapons. They're buying hand grenades. No joke, right? They're buying some serious recreational vehicles. Go on and Google the stuff. Look at this, the Mad Max looking machines that these dudes are driving around with some heavy freaking artillery. They're building an army down there. And the violence is already spilling over into the United States. I've done shows on it. You guys all remember those shows, right? Remember the wife, the husband, and the child that got dragged out of their home in California and shot in the gutter in front of their house, execution style, pop, pop, pop. Not something drug dealers tend to do in this country. They don't. I mean, that crap happens in movies. It doesn't happen in real life because it draws attention to you. Cartels do that because they want people to be terrified. It's one of their number one weapons is that people are so freaking scared of them that, you know, people don't get out of line. They do exactly what they're told. They don't talk, right? But it's spilling across the border already. Think it's going to get better? I got news for you. It ain't going to get better. It's not. It's going to get worse. And if we don't do something about it, then we're going to lose the country. And I can leave it at that. I really can. But here's where you're at. All you're going to be able to do is win the battle, right? Your battle. What's your battle? I don't know, man. That's on you. I know what my battle is, right? I got 2 kids. That's my number one battle. I am not going to let my kids overdose on this crap. I'm going to talk to them until they're so sick and tired of hearing me talk to them. And that they've both been on here. They'll tell you they're a little tired of it. They are. I mean, as often as I've talked to my kids about it, I still do it probably once a month for both of them, where I just go, you realize nothing's changed, right? It's just worse. You cannot be doing things. You know, if your weed comes from a dispensary, thank God, right? If the pills you're getting came from a pharmacy in the United States and they had your name on the pill bottle, that's great, right? Those are things that, you know, there are some safe ways these days to still do drugs, but they're disappearing to be sure. And if what you're buying is street drugs, then there are no safe street drugs left. Sadly, that is the truth. Don't send me an email and say, I got a guy. Of course you do. I'm talking about across the country. Are there pockets of people that are still selling decent product? There are. But the decent product's going to run out. It is, because they're not making decent product anymore. You know, every once in a while you get stuff that sat here or did that. And, you know, you're buying dope that might've been smuggled into the US 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But the day is coming in the very near future where every single thing in this country is going to be this poison. Right? That's it. Unless you got friends making it. This would be a really excellent time. If you're hearing the sound of my voice and you're still getting high on recreational drugs, it'd be a really good time to maybe evaluate that. You know what I'm saying? Get some test strips. They're almost every state now has lightened up the rules on the whole what do you call it? Test strip thing. Most are not too tripped out about the test strips. So get some test strips. Test the product that you're doing before you stick it up your nose or you put it in your arm or whatever. Seems like an inconvenience. It's not as inconvenient as dying because the Narcan didn't get the stuff done. Right? That's inconvenient. That's powerfully inconvenient. Get some test strips. If you're in the life, right, do everything you can. Don't fix alone. There are some things that you can do if you're still in the life, right? Things that you can do to offset the risk. If it's the first time you've picked up a batch of dope, don't slam the first batch, right? Don't do a shot the first time. Smoke it and smoke a very small amount of it, because if that very small amount affects your breathing, then shooting it's going to kill you. For real. And one last thing, for those people that say, well, I've been smoking heroin my whole life, or I've been doing this. Smoking heroin, you're not going to overdose. Smoking fentanyl, you can overdose like that, for real. There is no safe way to do this drug, but there are sure ways to do it more dangerous than others. And one of them is fixing alone. Don't shoot dope alone. Don't smoke dope alone. Not in this day and age. You just can't afford to do that. Have people around. Let people know what you're doing, And please, if you've ever thought about it, if you ever thought, man, I got to get off this crap, this is the time. For real. Reach out, talk to people, tell people you want help. If you have the ability to talk to a doctor, do that first. Talk to a doctor, tell them you want out of this life, right? And then figure out what the battle is for you. What's your sphere of influence? Your kids, your nieces and nephews. Yeah. Who do you not want to die in this? That's pretty much how that works, right? Who do you really not want to see overdose in this? You got somebody younger. I did a video on this, and it's a bummer, and it's not something that's fun to say out loud. And it really isn't. And I wasn't doing it for shock, although I'm sure it was pretty freaking shocking. But I repeat it over and over again. And you got two options in 2023. You are going to educate your kids about the dangers of fentanyl, or you're going to bury them. It's unpleasant. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that's really where we're at. It's not over dramatic to say that 300 parents got phone calls today, right? There were 300 people that got the phone call that said, so-and-so is gone. They didn't make it. They finally overdosed. And that's hump. That's hump. If that happened because, they were just being Keith Richards and that's how they lived. But that's not the case anymore. Now people die their first time experimenting with a pill. That's just not right. It's not fair and it's not right. Maybe we can get something done about this, huh? There's a lot of us. Let's start making some noise. For real. Reach out. Share this video. For real. If you think I'm in this to get to 500,000 subscribers, then you probably haven't been here very long. But this is the nuts and bolts stuff. This is the bread and butter stuff. This is why I'm here, right? Share this. You got somebody that that's got kids, share this. Because you wouldn't put them behind the wheel of a car without putting them through driver's education, then without getting into the car with them yourself, watching them drive, hands at 10 and 2. But your kid's about, 10 times, 20 times more likely to die of a drug overdose than they are of a car wreck. Did you put your kids through drug education the way you did driver's education? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, maybe not, right? Maybe not. And if you believe that just telling your kid no is talking to them about drugs, that's almost as bad as not talking to them. Do you understand that? It really is. It's almost as bad as saying nothing. What you have to say is, just because something is a pill does not make it safe. You understand? And just because it's a pill doesn't mean it came from the manufacturer who actually made that pill. Chances are it was made in someone's garage. There's no telling what the quality control is. Let me show you 150 articles of people just like you who went out and tried one of these for the first time and died. Think I'm being a buzzkill? Well, you need to know what's out there, right? Do you know that this is the number one cause of death in this country, right? If your kid doesn't know that, you are effing up in massive proportion. For real, you hear me? If your kid doesn't know that, you're screwing up. It's sad that that's the world we live in, but damn it, that is the world we live in. So if your kid is not aware of the fact that the number one cause of death in this country is overdose, I'm sad to say you need to tighten up your game. And you need to tighten it up pretty quick, right? We're fighting a pretty ugly clock here, people. We really are. We're fighting a really ugly clock. This is not a situation any of us have ever been in before. We haven't. It's never happened. So, what do we do, Tommy? I don't know. We're going to figure this out, right? We're kind of all in this together. What I can tell you is this. The people that we have trusted to do something about this have failed. And they have failed miserably. And I will leave it to people smarter than myself to determine why that is. Because there certainly seems to be a tremendous amount of evidence that it is almost intentional. if it's not. The blatant disregard for everything that even resembles logic is so far out of the norm that the only logical conclusion is that these people are absolutely incompetent at a level we've never seen, or they want this to happen. This is part of a plan. Either way, the way that we can do something about it is we can piss and moan to everybody that'll listen that has anything to do with politics. Make them think that they're not going to get elected if they don't do something about this border. And that's usually the way you can get somebody's attention. There aren't too many other ways. Lady Spellbreaker, that's actually really funny. Look at the jokes. You guys are on fire. All right, people, let me tell you something. I'm ending this one a little bit early because the monsoon, I'd like to go and make sure that nothing is blown away or that nothing of good size is in my pool. Thank you for letting me rant. So many of you stuck around through this, and I know it's not always fun. But every once in a while, people, we need to do this because we are in an ugly, ugly place. And, do me a favor and tell me all of the other people that are doing what we're doing, right? Because I will champion them. I will tell people to go to their, to their channels. We're not in competition if we're doing this, right? We really are trying to maybe save our brothers and sisters, right? Our family, us, same people, nothing different. Difference is we've already been saved. It's the only difference, right? I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, lifeboat, and this right here, this is a cat in a basket. She's back in the saddle. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow.